Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the regularly scheduled Ways and Means Committee. My name is Abdul Sami. I'm the chair of the committee, and today with me are council members Cunningham, Johnson, and Palmisano. We have a quorum and therefore can conduct our business. And I will start with the consent items. We have 21 items on consent and 1 item on discussion. The consent items are as follows. Item number 1 is a legal settlement claim of Viejo Thao. Item number 2 is a contracts with RBG Global Asset Management Government Portfolio Advisors, GPA, T. Rose and Associates, and the Galliard Capital Management for investment management services. Item number 3 is a contract amendment with LifeWorks Services, Inc. for courier services. Item number 4 is a contract with the state of Minnesota for air quality monitoring stations on city property. Item number 5 is a contract with Graceful Bakery and Catering, LLC, for the services for the public service building. Item number 6 is an agreement with Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians for sprung structures. Item number 7 is a bid for Americans with Disabilities Act and all gender restroom improvement project at multiple facilities. Item number 8 is a gift acceptance from Kelly Duran to supply Minneapolis 911 response officers with Narcan. Item number 9 is a contract amendment with Downtown Improvement District for policing in downtown Minneapolis. Item number 10 is a contract amendment with eligible providers for employment and training services. Item number 11 is a transfer of 2019 funds from the City Coordinator's Division of Sustainability to the Health Department for the Green Cost Share Program. Item number 12 is a grant from the Minnesota Department of Health for the Safer Sex Intervention Project. Item number 13 is a grant application to the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Office of Justice Programs for the Inspiring Youth Project. Item number 14 is a National Association of County and City Health Officials Grant Appropriation Amendment. Item number 15 is a Minnesota Department of Health Grant for Staff Training Appropriation Amendment. Item number 16 is a contract amendment with Global Specialty Contractors, Inc. for PV Plaza Construction Project. Item number 17 is a contract amendment with Park Construction Company for 18th Avenue Northeast Street Reconstruction Project. Item number 18 is a memorandum of understanding with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for solid waste and recycling services. Item number 19 is negotiations with Metro Transit for cost participation related to the D-Line Bus Rapid Transfer Project. Item number 20 is the 26th Avenue South Pedestrian Refuge Island and Traffic Signal Project, Layout Approval and Cooperative Agreement. And item number 21 is the 2019 second quarter financial status report. And we've been joined by Council Vice President Jenkins and Council Member Fletcher. And I have a question or query from Council Vice President Jenkins. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Osami. I'm curious, is there anyone available to speak to item number 19? Negotiation with Metro Transit for cost participation related to the D-Line Bus Rapid Transit Project?
Is there anyone from Public Works? Nobody's here from Public Works. What was your question on that?
Well, I mean, I would feel uncomfortable approving any cost participation as we are waiting for or counting on participation from the state, as well as the federal government and the county. And so I'm curious what this conversation is about.
I think we have somebody from the TPW committee, Council Member Fletcher. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a ton of detail, but I know this is pretty standard just to authorize them to open negotiations. And with any project like this, there's going to be a component of work that the city needs to do. It may be something where the county manages the road, but we manage the traffic signals above it and need to give traffic signal priority as a part of this plan. And so figuring out who's going to pay for that or how that's going to get structured that process of figuring out who's responsible for what is what we're authorizing them to
Figure out.
to head into, but we're not approving any expenditures with this vote. We're only authorizing the department to have that conversation.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
All right. So that answer to your question? Thank you. I will move approval for all the consent items, but before we do that, we do have, if you look at item number 5, is a contract with Be Graceful Bakery and Catering for the new public service building. And we have Mr. Robert Grace here, and he can basically introduce himself and talk about his business.
Hi, my name is Robert Grace. I'm the owner of Be Graceful Bakery and Catering. I am the official concessionaire for the public service building that will be opening next summer across the street. Welcome, and just want to say hello.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Thank you. Go ahead. Council Vice President Jenkins has.
Thank you, Council Member Warsame and Mr. Grace.
Yes.
Wondering what your culinary offerings are going to be in the new public service building.
Yes. My background, we do a lot of vegan, gluten-free deli sandwiches. Also, we're going to have ice cream specials, a coffee espresso, cappuccino, a lot of great varieties that we'll be doing, opening from 6 to 3:30 every day.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming. We didn't want to put you on the spot, but wanted to introduce yourself, so thank you. Council Member Cunningham has a comment.
Mr. Grace, we're so excited to have you on board. I just want to share that you had my heart at vegan, so thank you. Never have any vegan options, so yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And I move approval of all 21 items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, and those items have been approved. And now we will move on to our final item and our discussion item. And that's item number 22 on our agenda list, and that's a contract amendment with Meet Minneapolis for sales and marketing of the Minneapolis Convention Center and Convention and Tourism Services for the city. This is authorizing an increase to the contract with Meet Minneapolis in an amount not to exceed $12 million a year, and an extension through December 31st, 2024 for sales and marketing of the Minneapolis Convention Center and Convention and Tourism Services for the city in accordance with the term set forth in the Minneapolis Convention Center and Meet Minneapolis 2020 to 2024 contract term sheet. And this item is in discussion, and we have Mr. Jeff Johnson here. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair Warsame and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Minneapolis Convention Center, and I manage the relationship along with the City Coordinator that we have with Meet Minneapolis. Meet Minneapolis is a nonprofit organization that was created in the 1980s to serve the marketing and sales serve as the marketing and sales force for the Minneapolis Convention Center. They were also charged with marketing Minneapolis to visitors and tourists as a destination. And through this long relationship with the city has relied on Meet Minneapolis to drive tax collections through our hospitality sales taxes, support hospitality industry jobs, and foster economic activity in our city. Today I'm before you to present a 5-year extension to their contract with the city, along with some adjustments to the components of our agreement. In our discussions with Meet Minneapolis, we have created a term sheet that will drive the creation of an amended contract due to expire in 2024. The term sheet outlines desired changes in these ways, and I thought I would start with funding. We propose to put parameters around how city funding is spent by allocating spending percentages based on the scope of the contract. 70% of city funding must be used on the marketing and sales efforts tied to the Minneapolis Convention Center, 20% to the marketing of Minneapolis as a tourist destination, and 10% towards leveraging our regional capabilities to host events that benefit Minneapolis. This change will allow us to better understand how city funding impacts the scope of our agreement. We also propose to add some scope to the Meet Minneapolis contract with a corresponding increase in the base funding to cover 3 new scope areas. The first area is promoting cultural districts and neighborhoods to tourists and visitors. This initiative would see Meet Minneapolis play a key role in the growth of our tourism industry outside of the downtown core. The increase to the base funding for this initiative would be $150,000 per year of the contract. The second area of additional scope is in mega events. This additional funding would go towards the commitment of city services needed during the solicitation of mega events like a national political convention or a huge sporting event. This proactive approach would provide resources for Meet Minneapolis to allocate dollars towards the payment of city services needed to support these large events. The increase to base funding for this initiative would be $150,000 per year of the contract. And then the third area of additional scope would support the Sister Cities program. Minneapolis has 12 sister cities around the world and actively works with these cities through Meet Minneapolis. The activity level and number of cities has grown over the years, and Meet Minneapolis needs more resources to coordinate these relationships well. The increase to the base funding for this initiative would be $50,000 per year of the contract. All totaled, the scope would increase Meet Minneapolis's contract funding by $350,000. I'm presenting this as additional scope as contract-based funding in order to make sure that we have stable funding over the 5 years of their contract. It really allows Meet Minneapolis to create programs that drive a more sustained and long-term result because they know that they're getting that funding in each year of their contract. We've also worked to improve incentive funding with changes to 2 of our 4 key performance indicators. The 2 new indicators are the number of jobs in the hospitality industry and the renewal rate of Meet Minneapolis partners. To also ensure that our goal-setting process is equitable and challenging, we've moved to a tiered goal-setting process where each indicator has 3 levels of goals, including an aggressive stretch goal. Meet Minneapolis will be eligible for portions of their incentive based on what tier of the goals they meet. The city coordinator and I have a robust schedule of oversight meetings, including yearly strategic planning sessions that we've added to this contract as a replacement for the more singularly focused marketing plan. Our quarterly meetings will be based on a more timely and engaging set of indicators based on industry activity, not the special contract language. As part of our audit department's recommendations for our partnership with Meet Minneapolis, it became obvious that we needed more flexibility in our indicators because setting indicators in stone in a 5-year contract does not allow us to react to the market conditions accordingly. And so that flexibility is really a key in order to help the city and Meet Minneapolis continue to make strategic decisions that help place us in a real competitive standing amongst the ever-changing industry landscape. So all in all, we appreciate your support of the hospitality community through the extension of the Meet Minneapolis contract for another 5 years. And we also acknowledge the great successes that we have had during the 5-year term of this current contract. If we look back in time, over that term, the convention center has seen 3 of those 5 years be record revenue years. So we started out at about $18.4 million in revenue in 2015, and last year we had over $23 million in revenue. If we look at hospitality taxes, in 2015, the city collected about $60 million in hospitality taxes, and last year we almost made it to $66 million in hospitality taxes. Now those numbers exclude the entertainment tax, which has also seen a large increase due to the activity of events downtown. So although Meet Minneapolis is not solely responsible for these successes, a strong Meet Minneapolis that is well-funded and good oversight and good goals going towards them really does help the city obtain these goals and really push those goals of jobs, economic activity, and tax generation. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody who has questions? Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Warsame, Mr. Johnson. So I have a couple of questions concerning the promotion of neighborhoods and cultural districts. Is there a plan or a framework for how that will happen? I think it would be important to really include those cultural districts in the marketing of that. And so hopefully, you know, you talked about a more robust strategic planning process, that would be sort of included? Do you know if there is a framework for how that marketing will
Council
happen in the
Vice
future?
President Jenkins, Chair Warsami, that would be part of the process. We have outlined sort of a broad framework for how that would go forward, but we don't have the details yet of how that interaction would help and really bring that together. Obviously, once or if the funding were to come available, then we would start to really strategically plan out how we would engage with the different communities. I know that the Cultural Districts program is really in its infancy right now, and so being able to be there along with that growth and make sure that the marketing activities of Meet Minneapolis help to lift up those areas, I think would be an important part of that program.
And then, thank you. And then my second question is related to the mega event support, and just want to be sure that there's still opportunity. I know city council members sit on the Meet Minneapolis board and is a part of that planning process, but that there is opportunity for the council to be engaged in the pursuit of mega events, as they do impact our bottom lines, and sometimes not always in the most positive ways. And so we want to be able to so this wouldn't like create a 5-year opportunity without input from the council, is what I'm trying to get at.
Council Vice President Jenkins, Chair Warsami, I don't believe that it takes away input. What I do believe is it hopefully limits the amount of financial support that could go towards a mega event, because that would be held by the $150,000 per year. And so what the thought process here is that we give Meet Minneapolis a parameter of what amount of money they can use in order to go after these types of events to pay for city services. And so they would be only able to and authorized, when they go after a mega event, to put towards the amount of money towards city services that they have in this new mega events budget. And so it wouldn't necessarily take you out of the discussion, but what would happen is that after we win the event, we wouldn't be coming back and saying, oh, now we need additional money. That money would already be decided beforehand as part of the RFP and solicitation process with these funds. And so trying to kind of put the more proactive approach to going after these events versus us getting the event and then trying to figure out how much it's going to cost the city, and coming to a council and saying, oh, by the way, we've received this event and now we need some money. This is more proactive in saying, we have a savings account of money that Meet Minneapolis can use for city services, and then that would be a part of the management of that process.
One
Yeah, go
more
ahead.
follow-up. So the pursuit of these mega events is sort of cyclical. So some years there's more, some years there's less. Would these funds then roll over? Because this is $150,000 per year, if I'm not mistaken.
Council Vice President Jenkins, Chair Warsami, the thought process is yes, these funds for that 5 years of the contract would roll over. So it would be a savings account that each year we would put $150,000 into, and Meet Minneapolis would manage that as they went out and solicited for events. If for some reason during those 5 years the dollars weren't spent, that money would either come back to the city, to the Downtown Assets Fund, or as we extended or looked to extend their contract the next time, we would have a discussion about what to do with that money. So if it would not be in their normal budget process, their normal budget to spend each year. It would be held to the side just for these opportunities for mega events. There's probably only a handful to 10 events that would be considered mega events. And so
What would be some examples of mega events?
some examples would be a national political party, so a Republican or a Democratic National Convention. It could be the Super Bowl, the Final Four that just came through. I know that there are some discussions about the college football playoff game that could be coming. So it's not their normal, regular business of just bringing events to the convention center. These are events that would really, in many ways, take over the entire city, the very, very large events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Vice President Jenkins. Council Member Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to continue the concerns that Council Vice President brought up. So is there no maximum of what we're allocating and giving to you? It would be $150,000 times 5, the term of the contract. So it would be authorizing Minneapolis representatives to negotiate with up to $750,000 of money, because it rolls over year to year. I mean, that's usually what we hold over you, to be honest, right? Is we make you come to council to figure out how to spend that money, and that's when we make the formal decision as policymakers whether we endorse that particular event or not. So can you help me understand more? You started to, I think, with the council vice president. Can you tell me more about what the public review is then of those events that you're going after or not? How do we help make sure that you aren't chasing after things that we don't endorse?
Councilmember Palmisano, Chair Warsami, I think the best way that I could answer that question is that there are 6 city council members on the Meet Minneapolis board, and the mayor sits on the Meet Minneapolis board. The executive committee of Meet Minneapolis also includes, I believe, 3 council members and the mayor. And so the city council does wield a lot of influence and power on the Meet Minneapolis board, and would be able to be a part of that discussion. But yes, we are doing this on the front end versus on the back end, how we've done it in the past. So it is a change in the way that we would potentially operate, and it's a great discussion on if we want to make that change or not.
If I may,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, so is there then a vote taken at the Meet Minneapolis board before these events are pursued?
Councilmember Palmisano, Chair Warsami, there is a discussion in the executive committee. There is not a full board vote, and so the executive committee would then be charged to discuss that with different board members and make sure that that was, but the actual mega events themselves are relatively defined, so there aren't unless there would be a new mega event created, those mega events are known. And so I don't think there would be any surprises that would come forth.
So then the mega events are finite, right? And there's a dozen of them or so, or less. Can you remind me, because I've never sat on the Meet Minneapolis board myself, how many seats? You said 6 seats are taken by elected policymakers of Minneapolis, but how many seats are there on the Minneapolis board?
Councilmember Palmisano, Chair Warsami, I believe that number has come down 35 total members of the Meet Minneapolis board. And then on the executive committee, I believe that 3 city council members, but 3 of 10. There are 10 people on the executive committee, and 3 of those 10 would be city council members or the mayor. So 4 total.
So I just want to point out that seems like quite a dilution of our control over this money, and it is a change that we should carefully consider going forward.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Okay, I think we have council member, thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. And we have council member Johnson who's going to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment to this, so I'll just go ahead and move the item with the amendment and then speak to the amendment for colleagues. So my concern with the contract isn't so much the contract itself, it's really a procedural concern, which is that it includes $350,000 in the contract that is part of the mayor's proposed budget. And I think procedurally, it's best to have any items in the proposed budget going through the regular budget cycle process, having opportunity for the public to speak to those items at the public hearings, to be looked at in context with the rest of the budget. And so procedurally, I feel most comfortable with, and this is why I bring forward this amendment, is taking out those parts that are in the mayor's proposed budget out of this contract right now, and then having those brought up at the Ways and Means Committee meeting that is immediately after the budget is adopted by the council. So that way, you know, you can make your assumptions about if those items will all go through as proposed, but that way those items would come back up as a contract amendment at the first Ways and Means Committee meeting, which would be in January. And so I think that accomplishes the goal of trying to procedurally have those components that are part of the proposed budget come through with the rest of the budget process. And actually, I want to mention, just kind of as an aside, that I really happen to like this idea of Minneapolis increasing the scope around promoting neighborhoods and cultural districts as well. And that I also appreciate the Sister Cities program and recognize the value around mega events for our cities too. So it's not a statement about those particular items, but really about the process, the procedure.
Okay, Councilmember Andrew Johnson has made a motion. Any discussion on his motion? Okay, all right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move approval of the item number 22, adding Councilmember Andrew Johnson's motion as one vote. We can do that, right? And all those in approval say aye. Aye. Those against? The discussion item, as well as Councilmember Andrew Johnson's motion or amendment, has been approved, and so we are going to move forward with the contract. However, after we've had our budget discussion, and we will then revisit the extra 350,000 in addition. So, thank you very much. And seeing no further items on our agenda, this meeting is adjourned.